If you like these videos, please check out my full course at www.lsat.totaltestprep.net with tons of clearly explained actual LSAT questions written by someone who's mastered test and helped others master it, and an evaluation period where you only pay if you want to continue.
Alright, so in this video we're going to cover the strengthen and weaken question. So, what is the strengthen and weaken question? What do these questions ask for? In other words, how are they phrased? What do they test? And how do we approach them? Alright, so in terms of the basic information, we've got some examples here. So, which one of the following, if true, would most clearly undermine a portion of Ringer's argument as the argument is described in the passage? Or which one of the following, if true, would lend the most credence to the author's statement in lines 55 through 59, etc. So, these questions will include words like undermine, weaken, support, strengthen, etc. The actual strengthen and weaken questions are actually fairly rare. They appear least of all the question types we've gone over. So once every 3 or 4 passages, maybe even once on the test, essentially. Both the strengthen and the weaken questions range from more specific to encompassing the passage as a whole. Okay, in terms of the question type, these questions test your ability to evaluate the strength and support for arguments or assertions in the text. And these questions are virtually identical to the weaken and strengthen questions in the argument section. The major difference, of course, is that it's not as obvious what the argument that you're evaluating is, because it's embedded within the passage as a whole. So, in terms of the basic approach, most important thing is for both strengthen and weaken questions, or rather the most important thing for both strengthen and weaken questions is to have a good idea of what you're being asked to strengthen or weaken and what the support for it is. So the first thing is to determine what the question is asking you to evaluate. If it's a general question, then determine what the author's conclusion is and what the overall argument is. If it's a specific question, then determine what the argument is in the part of the text that's specified. Then, go through the answer choices and see which one weakens or strengthens the point in question, depending on the question. So, in either case, you have to make sure that the information in the answer choice is relevant to the argument in the text. Likewise, if the question asks for the choice that weakens, then you have to pick the one that makes the conclusion of the argument or the certainty of the assertion less likely. And if the question asks for the choice that strengthens, then you have to pick the one that makes the conclusion of the argument or the certainty of the assertion more likely. Now, in terms of right answer and wrong answer, for the strengthen questions, as with the strengthen questions in the argument section, the correct answers will provide information that makes the conclusion or the certainty of the assertion referenced in the question more likely. So, choice might be new information that independently provides support. It might make explicit key missing information. And it might make less likely something that would weaken the conclusion or assertion. And likewise, as with argument, strengthen questions, the incorrect answer will not provide support. But that doesn't mean that it'll weaken, just that it may simply be irrelevant. Of course, it could also weaken. So, wrong choices will actually often attack something that seems to be related, but is in fact only seemingly related. Okay, so that's the strengthen. For the weaken questions, as with the weaken argument questions, the correct answers are going to provide information that undermines the conclusion or the assertion, so something that undermines. The correct choice will generally not directly contradict something in the text, but it will provide additional information that makes the point of the conclusion less likely. The incorrect answer will not undermine the conclusion or the assertion. This doesn't mean that it will strengthen, it may, but it may also simply be irrelevant. So, wrong choices will also often attack something that seems to be related, but is in fact only superficially or seemingly related. Alright, so in terms of the quick summary, the basic approach is to have a good idea of what the overall argument is, or the support for the point in the question, and to pay attention to the relevance of the answer choices.